everything. COEE.
Put in with that word, or what the universities have put with that word. Understand? So how I see the universities controlling it is that, okay, as soon as you try and talk about identity politics, all these other things come in, and people haven't even mentioned it yet. So let's find out what we mean by society or social. And what society or so that we're talking about, who is in it and who is out of it, and then we take our time and go bit by bit, slowly, step by step, and then we understand, because as you're using certain words, as I'm using certain words, you make assumptions that everybody else understands the same meaning for that word. So before you move on, you've got to make sure that we're all sharing the same understanding of the words or the phrase that we're discussing. Do you understand?
It takes a long time, but
that's right. It takes a long time.
So what you're saying, basically, I mean, there's a lot of associations with identity politics and
Yes.
oppression.
I think it's a...
What's the difference between identity politics and tribalism?
Oh, good.
Identity politics, as I see it now, mainly used by the universities and the mainstream media.
So it's an ideology.
Is a specific ideology that they use, a specific method they use actually to cause division within a specific society. So they set one group against the other group, and they just cause all of this chaos, and I suppose it leads to the kind of tribalism that you're talking about, where the two groups actually form into individual groups, whereas before they were a united whole. And that's what I see in America with the whole, Black Lives Matter movement.
Is tribalism also an ideology?
I'd say
rooted in the biology that we all have?
Or the general society formation that humans have always had.
The family, and then the extended family, and then the nation.
Yeah, initially we used to form into groups of around 150 members, and that was going right back to when we were Australopithecines.
Australopithecus.
That was the last variety of them. The Australopithecines generally were that entire subspecies, group of species.
The missing link sort of thing, is that the idea?
So that was our common ancestor with chimpanzees, which is about 7.8 million years ago.
Or bonobos.
Right.
I don't know, a lot of people want to believe that we're more closely related to...
And then Australopithecus, they evolved into the earliest hominids, and then eventually from that we developed modern humans. So all that time, we were in tribes of around 150 members.
Yeah.
So that's, interestingly, if you look at the church and other religions, the average congregation size is 150 members, and there's the alpha male, the priest, who is the figurehead, who's the one who provides moral guidance and teaching. And also you have the promotion of marriage within this institution. And so, in a way, it's kind of emulating the conditions that we had as earlier hominids, and that's what religion has done. But recently, we've had, I'd say, mass collectivism ever since the creation of the modern nation state. And so that's kind of been a bastardization, in a way, of tribalism. I'd say the whole way through, actually, ever since the first kind of complex human city-states where there was actually a call for men to go to war. Like, ever since that time, we've had a bastardization of tribalism where it's the young men and they're doing the bidding of old rich men who want to expand their empires, and they decide that using disposable young men is the way to do it.
That's right, yes.
That's kind of the modern tribalism that we've seen.
Do you think women in all societies are seen as a resource?
Sorry, explain.
All right. Well, there's a reason why we see boys or men are disposable. It's because they don't produce children.
Yeah.
So in all societies, whether it's this very matriarchal society, ISIS, which is very hard patriarchy, always going to view women as valuable resource that needs to be, provided for in order to produce children of the next generation and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's why, in certain ways, women are always going to be given certain privileges that boys just won't.
Women will always be the protected gender, and men are the disposable gender. Yeah. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that to a certain degree, because men are physiologically stronger, better stamina, better endurance, all of that, and also they have much more of a psychological enjoyment out of engaging in dangerous activity. Whereas women, they don't. I'd say guys enjoy being in a situation that is a bit dangerous, but they can handle. Whereas I don't think women enjoy being in such a situation because of the fact that they're the life givers,
right,
for our species.
So as you're speaking,
I'm bringing up different ideas. I know that.
Yes,
yeah.
But could you see that those views could be perceived as coming from a certain set of values held by a society? So we're talking here, and you just say, "Oh, do you see women as resources?" You mentioned the women as resources. So that could be a trigger word. People say, "Oh, they're male chauvinists." But you understand? So,
just an observation.
but even the observation. That's right. That's right. So he asked that question. Could women be seen as resources? And then the conversation flowed onto what you were saying about the different tribes and how men are perceived. But from that root phrase, you understand, that could be perceived as something totally anathema to modern society. Yeah. And another group could be saying, well, it wasn't like that in matriarchal societies, because they had conversation here as well. They would never see women as resources. It wouldn't even raise such a question. You understand? So as we're talking, the conversation seems to flow that we almost automatically fit into a certain society. Just us here having a conversation. We might not realise it, but the conversation is flowing because we share certain views, which could be attached to a certain part of society. And it could be because maybe we're all men talking like that. You understand?
Part of the conversation may be the fact that in our current time, with austerity, white males who, in this country, who traditionally or have felt privilege, are no longer feeling privileged.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point.
And so this kind of, I haven't followed Jordan Peterson, but I think that he's benefiting, on a platform based on that.
He's seen as a father.
Yes.
He's seen as a father figure.
That's right. That's right.
But I mean, it can also be used to illegitimize the authentic complaints of people who have been felt the same prejudice or the same disempowerment for quite some time.
That's right.
It's just that young white males are new to it, maybe.
I don't agree with a lot of this from a historical perspective, just because I don't think like anyone was particularly privileged.
Only the
if
elites.
you go back
Exactly.
100 years, even the elites didn't have that great a life. A lot of them would die of
Fighting each other,
waterborne
killing each other.
diseases, or
But going back to the beginning of Fortress Europe, recent history, white men coming back from the war were quite empowered in as much as the squatting laws, for example, were formed there to pacify the men who were saying, well, we're going to have this anyway. We've just been in a war. We've faced bullets, and we also know how to handle guns, and we also know where to get them. And we're going to just have these buildings.
But and also, if we look coming forward to today and looking at the future, going back to our conversation earlier, is that these globalists, as I see as the enemy, bankers, the whole concept of a family and a man and a woman and children and family, they just see them as units of trade. So therefore, if the men decide to get together and want to fight or something, what they'll do is say, well, look, we control the women because the women don't need you, right? We're the banks.
Well, because of the welfare state.
Exactly. So the welfare state has replaced you. So you might be arguing with your woman, but the woman is above you.
But here's the thing: how did the welfare state start?
For the bankers.
Benefits.
Yeah, but what made women wanting to be married to the state than their husbands?
Benefits basically.
When did that happen?
1950s, 60s.
I'd say the 60s.
I go back to the Enclosure Acts. I mean, at least.
Well, when's the Enclosure Act?
So the Enclosure Acts happened in the 18th century.
Right,
And,
okay.
It was to fuel the Industrial Revolution, so people were lost a lot of their rights to land,
Yes.
to grow their own vegetables, and they were a bit like my experience in Brazil. The communities that were disrupted, the men had to go on far distant travels in order to get employment, and so the women and children were left bereft.
So you say the free market?
Yes. That's right.
Well, here's how I
Boils
interpret
down
it.
to the bankers.
Yes, the Industrial Revolution played a big point in all this, but then there are two specific things that gave us the welfare state. First of all, it's national IQ, because when you have a very intelligent population combined with the free market, then that's going to lead into loads of national resources and then a overabundance of resources. And when you have an overabundance of resources, people kind of like feel, got everything I need, I'm going to be more materialist and stuff like that. And if there's such an excess of resources, the state will say, hey, we've got all these resources, let's just give it to people without them earning it, as a means to certain political views or to protect people who can't work, who don't want to work.
That's
whatever.
how Bitcoin works.
And another reason was because of medical science, because when the invention of the birth control or contraceptive pill was invented in the 60s, that meant that women can now control their own reproductive systems, because before then, as soon as you got laid, you probably had to have a kid, and then that started as a family, whether it was intentional or not. But then women had the option of having all the sex they liked without suffering any consequences, and then they would have more control, and then that also leads to divorce rates skyrocketing.
Right.
It also leads to the welfare state, because more and more women would rather just rely on the government for their money than some guy.
What you're saying is correct, I think.
Yep.
But its roots go back hundreds of years before that. See?
But
it might not have looked.
Things really went
Yes,
job time from the 60s
right,
point,
that's right.
even if the roots were established.
Just like monoculture farming. That's interesting what you say about. I was having a conversation with someone about Bitcoin today, which I've had with other people, that it works on the principle of scarcity rather than abundance.
Right.
So it means that if you want to be a part of this group, there's only a limited amount of tokens.
Yes.
So you have to commit basically, because in this
It's
society
that's how a
we've got,
money system should function.
we've got so much choice. Oh, I'm gonna even in religion, I'll try Buddhism. Or I'll try yoga. Or I'll try this.
Yeah.
And the weights or our life force gets split up into loads of different.
That's right.
Because
That's
people,
right.
I mean,
people
I
are
think
often religious when their society is under a lot of stress.
Sorry?
Under a lot of stress.
People get more religious.
When there's a lot of stress.
Yeah. But the ultimate religion is only one religion. And that religion is being run by the bankers, because we all have a bank account. And you have a bank account, you have to have faith. It's like a temple, where every time you go to the bank, you don't realize you're going to a temple, because you're believing your faith, your hard work and labor is going into that bank account. And you don't even know who are the owners of the bank. You don't know who the names of the people are. You don't even know what their values are. You don't know what their cultural values are or anything about that. But yet you have faith in that building. So you don't know what the lot. So they say, okay, you come here, we'll give you 2% on your savings, and then you think, oh, I'll put my money in here, I'm getting my 2%. I'm happy. I'm getting my 2%. But you're not asking how is that 2% or 3% generated. And if they were to tell you how that 2% or 3% would be, you take your money out of that place.
And if you see the issue of inflation as well,
Sorry?
If you see the issue of inflation as well, then you see you're actually losing money over time because the whole monetary supply gets a lot bigger, and so your money goes less far anyway, and all of the prices for goods in supermarkets and all of that, it all rises anyway.
Exactly. So that is real religion. Real religion, because even if you go to a church or you're a member of the Buddhists or you're a member of the Muslims or you're a member of the Christians, right? You all got the same bank account. You're all going to Barclays. So what is your church? Yeah. Because a temple was originally the place. Was a bank.
Can I just mention about the welfare state? And I think it was a number of things that caused it. So I think the main the main one I'd say is the death of religion. The fact that people decided to become atheist and agnostic, and they abandoned Christianity, and so they abandoned marriage really within the kind of being the binding force between the local community, and that went out. And at the same time, there was, of course, the birth control and safe, effective abortion. And so women had more choice over when they got pregnant and with whom. And so then you got liberal values from there, which was that kind of a value system of do what you want.
Liberal values from there?
Yeah, from those two, the death of God and the death of Christianity, and so safe, effective abortion and birth control.
So the sexual revolution you're talking about in the 60s?
That all led to liberal values, which is a value system, and the underlying ethos is do whatever you want.
Yes, but that goes back
and that was the problem, basically.
What, sex, drugs and rock and roll, that kind of thing, you mean? Do what you like, that
yes.
kind of decadent sort of explosion of
So
energy.
in a way, life is no longer about obligation to the way it was before.
That's right.
Yeah.
Goes back to what you were saying, the free market, liberalism.
A completely Dionysian existence.
Hedonistic.
Yes, that's right. And the roots of that is with the traders and the bankers.
Consumption.
Because everything's for sale. Yeah. Even your child's for sale. How much would you sell that child for?
Yeah.
See? And liberalism, you call it liberalism, goes right the way back. They could say, well, hey, look, it's a free market. Everything's for sale. Mm-hmm. What's your problem? I want to buy your children. What's the problem? That's their attitude. And that's the roots of liberalism.
But do you believe in an actual capitalist system, or is it more a perverted socialist one?
I don't see anything wrong with a capitalist system, because a capitalist system is based on capital. And what is capital?
Free market.
Capital. Capital is actually having the money or the gold. That's capital, isn't it?
Assets.
Right. Or assets, yes. So there's nothing wrong with capitalism, because that's capital. Right. Now, when you start talking about free market and liberalism, that's something else.
I was going to say that with regard to money, it does appear like you can buy anything. So, for example, if you've got a bit of land,
yes,
say it's clay soil,
yes,
it's not all the things that are going to thrive there. So you might not be able to grow apples, for example.
Yes.
But you can grow a whole load of other things. But are you going to say, put all my money and resource and energy into that bit of land, when if I go to the capitalists, I can get anything?
Right, right.
Whereas if I just invest into this and this community, I can only get what this land provides. That seems to be quite limited, which is again that same principle that Bitcoin works on scarcity. Okay, you've got to commit. You can't be taking have a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of everything. You're either in or you're out. There's only a certain amount, and you've got to commit to it.
Yeah, but I was saying we don't leave it in a free market because all the corporations, don't pay taxes. The way they pay the taxes is to give money to the government, the Congress, and yeah, obviously in favour of that. Then if their company goes bust, well, it should have gone bust because of obvious things, but instead they've been artificially kept on top by handouts from
quantitative easing.
Yeah. Whilst in real market, you know, they would have been replaced by something that was better.
Yeah, there's that as well. Yeah.
Going back to what we were saying earlier, is that you could have some land, and maybe 50% of it is productive, but the other 50% is not about being productive. It's part of your identity. You understand? So you don't throw that away. You know, that this is part of our inheritance, our lineage. It might be just temples we've got over there. We can't grow any food over there.
Our environment, you know.
Exactly. So not everything is for sale. Not everything you can put a price on it.
I was talking about this with yourself earlier, and it's the issue of protectionism then. So you have on one end of the bargaining table capitalism, which is saying, we need to turn this into a commodity which we can sell.
Right.
And then you've got protectionism at the other end of the bargaining table.
I was talking about the energy regional grids versus national grid. So the regional grid implies protectionism, because when you're inside that region, you can only get from providers within that region.
Okay.
But also there is a degree of competition. So within that region, you can get your supply from those different.
I mean, it could be, but it's part of it is just telling the free market, okay, you can operate here, but you're not going to be able to set up a McDonald's on this mountain.
Exactly, that's right.
You're not allowed to do that because, frankly, we don't want to debase this ground that we have here.
Good. It's not debatable, you know. Mm-hmm. So that's the same thing with identity, because identity needs space. You need a space where you can call your own, and that preserves your identity. So as you're saying, protectionism goes with conservatism, doesn't it? Because if you're conserving, you're protecting, aren't you?
You've got to think what you're conserving now. I mean, it could be something something new. It could be conserving something new or something old that's been defaced by other traditions and cultures of the world up until this moment. So maybe we're protecting something new to come out that we haven't seen before.
Yes.
That the current system is not allowing to bring forth.
That's right. So therefore, protectionism and conservatism is a value that remains forever. You understand? Whilst the opposition who are fighting against that is that, well, everything moves and nothing really matters, and what is history, and you understand? And that ultimately is what causes the destruction of nations and destruction of people.
Because it's annoying when people saying like, "Oh, I want to protect my," or if people who have a go at people saying that I'm proud of my heritage and all the architectures or whatever racial group I come from, and people scoff at them and say like, "Oh, you didn't build that," you know.
That's right.
Didn't have pride. Why do you have pride in something you never built?
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's hubris, but I disagree, because if you inherited, say, your father's house, you know, yes, you didn't earn it, but it's still something that's passed down to you deliberately to be taken care of, and then for the next generation. That's how we have all these monuments to this day, because we didn't have this psychological input of people thinking, right, even though I didn't build that, that was clearly given. That's something that I inherited, and therefore I have to take care of it.
Like all the churches, for example, which are in their intent community buildings.
Right.
You can't suddenly say
people built the churches died when they were still in mid-construction.
Yes,
they
that's right.
knew that when they were dying, this is something that they're...
Yes.
You can't suddenly say just because
project.
Christianity is maybe dying out, that suddenly they aren't community buildings and they can be sold off to someone who's turning into private accommodation.
I would like it if I can convert some churches into pagan temples if they're not being used by Christians.
They should at any rate remain as community assets.
Yeah. And if you put it down to the individual, when you were at school, you know, wouldn't it be nice to see what some of your junior school textbooks look like? What was your handwriting like when you were 7 years old? Right? If you were rich enough and powerful enough, you'd have enough space to store these things, you know, or even have a photograph of what you looked at when you were 7 years old. Some people have no history at all, but you know, to have that is quite nice, isn't it? To know what, you know. So some people say, well, what use is having a textbook from your junior school?
I think it's a lot more profound, actually.
That's right.
I think it's a lot more profound, actually, if you look back at, say, you know, various churches and also, say, I mean, Stonehenge, for instance, which is, I mean, that's like, what, 4,000 years old, that stone monument, and it was, you know, from the time of the Celts and so on. And so if you actually look back that far and you see the history of the people who lived on this land then, and all of their individual stories and all of their beliefs as well, and so it becomes immensely powerful, I think, at that point.
Right, very powerful.
When you see, you know, it's kind of looking, you establish a link with the past.
Yes.
And you just go into that.
The corporations have taken control of Stonehenge now. Do you know that?
Have they?
When I was brought up in Wiltshire, and when I was young, you could go and stand on the stones, touch the stones. Now, in the name of preservation, they fenced it all off. Last time I was there, I was carried off by 2 security and 4 policemen.
You can't touch them.
And you can't go in. You know, you got to pay. So
you got to pay.
Yeah, there's a tunnel underneath the road, and the only way in is through by going underneath that tunnel and in. Otherwise, you've got to jump the fence. And they've got tripwires all around it. So even if you're going in the night time, you're liable to set these off, and that's how the security discovered me.
Yes. And the very people that appear to be preserving Stonehenge and its history, they're the same corporations that are intent on destroying history and memory, as you mentioned earlier on, of people, because they have to destroy history and memory in order to weaken you enough. They have to, because then they can control you by what you buy on the high street.
I'd say the radical left
narrative stories.
They can make it up all the time. They can make the movie. You see what you want in the movie, understand, and then that becomes your memory, and then you go to the high street to buy what you saw in the movie. So your history has no relevance, does it? Your history is only as valuable as what you saw in the last movie that you watched.
Because narrative is linked with authority, isn't it? Because the author is a creative process. So authority is we've got this association with the word as being something harsh and authoritarian, isn't it? As to do with punishment.
Yes.
But actually authorship is a creative storytelling process.
Yes, good.
Authority is linked with narrative.
I never thought of that. That's very good.
I'd say you've got the problem of, it's a radical left, and it is this identity politics, oppressed group, dichotomy, and it gets rid of all the richness of actual history.
Yes.
So you forget about all of the heroes and villains and all the people in between.
Yes.
And the general struggles that we all went through, and you just reduce everything to this group good and this group bad.
That's right.
It's all just reduced to that. It's like, this is crazy because, I guess my own heritage would be, as a Welsh person, and I look back at various Welsh people throughout history, and they were all sorts of different individuals. Heroes and villains and all of that. And it's not that we're just of one type, and that goes for any group.
I like the way what you said about the distortion of the language, or the twisting of the language. Because a tyrant is actually good. I read this book and just found out tyrants are good. Tyrants were the good people. But the reason why tyrants have been made to look bad as bad people, because the tyrants were the ones that beat up all the bankers, and they said, no, this is going back to the land. This is going back to the people. I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
So what?
The word tyrant. The tyrant. You always say, "Oh, the tyrant." But the tyrants were the ones that are fighting. Say, "Listen."
Yeah, the Greek kings.
Yeah, that's right. Because they put people in debt, and they were taking all the land.
Yeah.
It's the same bankers and rentiers. That's the same thing they were doing. They were putting in people in debt so they could take their land.
Is this to do
and the
with
tyrant came back.
A tyrant.
The word came back.
The word usually refers to a king or other authority figure who abuses their power to harm the population.
That's right, but it's not. It's exactly the opposite.
Okay.
What it is? Why a tyrant is seen as a bad guy? Because the tyrants were the ones that went against the bankers and the rentier class. So the rentier class and the bankers and the traders saw the tyrants as the bad guys.
What period was this?
Ancient Greek times.
Greek time. That's right.
That's
So
why
they twist the word upside down.
Out the last Athenian tyrant and established.
Good. And they start to kill them off. The bankers start to get together to try and kill those people off.
So, in your ideal society, do you believe in what Plato wanted, which was like a ruling elite?
A what?
A ruling elite.
Yeah, a ruling elite. There's nothing wrong with the ruling elite, but the ruling elite must come from the community or society, and the ruling elite must represent the society. Just like a bank should come from the society.
So what role does the king or queen play in today's society? Is it just a symbolic gesture of power, or is it not even needed?
Well, from the conversation I had with a few police here as well, I don't know if you was here, the police were here, we had the same conversation, but it seems like the royalty are finished, they're just like puppets now, and Parliament itself is finished as
Cheers,
well.
guys. I'm going to have to go. Have a good one. Nice one.
Yeah, good.
Cheers, mate.
Good conversation.
It's about the secretary.
Parliament itself is finished.
Monarchy, Parliament are seeing.
Yeah, they're all gone, and the people that are ruling now are the ones that you can't see.
Yeah.
They're the same bankers, because you don't know who they are.
So I was saying to
names
them that you had the infrastructure bill that came in 2015, I think, which basically states that a corporation that has a project above a certain amount of percentage of GDP can bypass council legislation and go straight to the Secretary of State, who can just give permission to the project.
Yes. So who is the Secretary of State? Are they subject to royalty? Are they subject to who are they? Who are they?
Yeah.
See?
Well, in that sense, they're simply pawns to their corporate powers.
Exactly.
Who've got enough
Yes, but
finance.
are we saying this as a global thing or mostly American, Europe?
It's a global.
It is global.
It's global.
Does that include China?
Yes, because as this conversation moves into the realms we're discussing World Bank, IMF, and those structures. China has recently become part of the IMF.
Right.
You understand? So even though the ordinary Chinese wouldn't know, but all of it is held at that level. They're not going to let you into the club unless there's a reason. You have to be following the rules of the club.
They're called SAPs, aren't they? Structural Adjustment Plans.
There you
So
go.
they will give a certain amount of loans on the basis that you do a certain projects within that country.
But isn't there like a conflict between the West and China, like being the hegemon of the world? Or do the bankers don't care as long as whoever's the hegemon is working for them?
That's right. You got it.
Right.
That's it. That's the answer. That's the answer.
So they play both sides of the
China's only just joined the club.
So they're playing both sides of the conflict.
Yes, that's right. That's what they do.
Would you say that's the same for, like, say, the recent American elections that both,
Yeah. All you need to do.
They were both funding Hillary Clinton and
yes, that's right.
Trump.
All you need to do.
And was it by coincidence that Donald Trump happened to win, and they thought, all right, not exactly what we wanted, but we can still work with that. Good.
Right. All you need to look at is the basic model. Is the stock market. They can make money on a bull market going up. They can make money on a bear market going down. You understand? So they don't mind. They always play both. That's the basis of finance. Up, win or lose, there's somebody making money. Bull market or bear market.
Why would you invest why would you invest in both candidates? Why not just put all your resources in one and know that that one's going to pay off the most?
Well, they call it hedging your bets.
Also,
So it's just like playing poker. Just like playing poker, you're not quite sure what the other person's hand is.
So you need always second options.
That's right.
So you want to give the illusion that there is a choice to the public.
That's right.
Oh, so they can manipulate the public to think
Even more effective.
Because if they were biased to one side, then they'll be pretty exposed. But if they play both sides,
Well, you see the amount of energy that the public put into election campaigns, the amount of psychological
Yes.
that a lot of people put in, the amount of arguments, in Brexit,
and that's
for example.
currency. That generates a currency.
When you take figures like George Soros, he obviously funded millions into Hillary Clinton's campaign. Did he do the same with Trump?
Who knows? Well, I was listening to Irving. Irving was talking about Hitler.
David Irving.
I think.
Who wrote the books about Hitler.
Yeah, and he said that during the last few years of the
Hitler
war,
was funded by Jews.
Exactly. So how are you going to get your head around that? So if you're a financier and a banker, it's not a problem because they're not looking at lives. They're not looking at lives. They're looking at business. Is it a good business investment? Are we going to win or lose? See?
So do you think the cultural Marxists are not are actually being manipulated by bankers to dance to their tune?
Bankers manipulate, and they are taking all your money, all the investment, whatever you put, they are the winners.
Because the investment is faith.
Yes,
your faith, that's religion.
Yes, but when people go on, especially about the Jewish question,
You know who commands the world? 666.
But when they talk about the Jewish question, it's not just I wouldn't say it's just Jews. It's by putting the word Jews, you're going to miss them because you can't put a name on these people.
Well, do you think that actually that's an advantage to the?
They'll kill Jews if they have to.
Yeah, but do you think that they like that there's this Jewspiracy because it hides their tracks?
That's right. You got it.
So the alt-right are unwittingly, falling for their trap.
Exactly. Because I was studying some American history last week, and the American Revolution, and there were some quotes from a general that was fighting for the British, and the impression I got was that he was upset that they did not send more troops to crush the American resistance, and that he knew it was very easy. They could have easily beat the Americans in the American Revolution. But as I started to study the bankers, I realized how it worked. What they'll do, they first send the white guys to go and kill off all the darkies in America, and then because some of the white guys die, a lot of them die. They say, wait a minute, we're fine. We want this place to be ours, and we want our own government. So, because they suffered and spilt blood to get that place, and so say, we don't want to be under your rule. We want to be America independent. So they said, okay, right, they're getting too cocky now. We're going to send some people over there, and then the revolution starts, and there's the Revolutionary War. And then it appeared that the British lost the war of the American Revolution. And so the Americans say, yes, and they start to build America. But these people, these bankers are very clever, and they think long term. So they'll back off and leave you to build your country. Infrastructure. That's right. They'll leave you to build your infrastructure, and they back off.
Well, it's a bit like farming.
You got it. You got it.
You can create all the best environmental outcomes for it to happen, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to wait a bit.
That's right. So they let you build all your infrastructure. Then the next time they come, they don't come with an army. They come with the Federal Reserve. And they took all of America back.
Do you think
all of it's back?
This is what I heard. That, in some ways, the revolution, the Masons lost power temporarily in America, but then the war of the Civil War,
yes,
the Masons regained control just what was that, 80 years later, 70, 80 years later?
That's right.
Like that.
And the first Masonic temple was set up at the trading post. Set up the trading post.
It's the,
So the trading post, what's the trading post?
I can't remember the name of the I was studying it this week, but I forgot the name. But the first Masonic temple was set up a trading post, and so that was subject to the traders. So they spread all the Masonic posts around, getting ready to dominate the area by the Federal Reserve through the banking. And that way they don't have to burn in their buildings, because war is destructive. So they let you build it all up first, then they come in and just take it. They're very clever. They think way ahead. So not everything is violence, because they say that the ultimate war, way of winning a war,
is when you actually don't have to fight.
but you know who controls the masonry? Do you know about the Illuminati?
Oh yes, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
That's right. So it's the same people. Yeah.
Rothschild is the one who controls almost 99% of the World Bank. Even the Federal Reserve, he's the one who owns it.
Yes, but I heard that there's people living above him.
No. Above Rothschild?
Yes.
No way.
Really?
He is the big boss. He is the big boss, and you see all the masonry, which are about 6,400,000 members, that they are under the masonry.
Yeah, I know the masonry is under.
Yeah, but masonry is under the
who? I'm not
Illuminati.
too sure.
The Illuminati. And you know who's members of the Illuminati? Every American president, before he comes, he is member of the Illuminati.
Oh, you have to be.
He has to be.
Yeah, you have to be a member of something.
Yeah.
There's no way you get in there.
But what I'd like to say, well, all these human games
Yes.
that have been taking place through history, but I think we're reaching a crisis now with regard to the environment. So there's a movement, for example, called the Extinction Rebellion, which is coming into London in the second 2 weeks of April for direct action, formed by environmentalists, lobbying groups who are fed up with lobbying because they haven't got a powerful lobby.
Actually,
the environment doesn't have a fight.
Well, you see,
So you- but
actually,
do you think
you and I, we count nothing.
Yeah,
We are nothing.
But then, so what are we going to do? Are we going to wait for system failure? Are we going to wait
But you see,
for chaos?
Who controls the money? He has got the word. He's got the. Okay. Now, for instance, you can see that the Rothschild, they have all the banks, politicians, and media. These three things are under them. Okay? So the Illuminati, they are controlling. And they were planning for the Third World War.
Oh yes, but they're not invincible.
Yeah.
They're not invincible. Anything that man puts together, man can take apart.
Yeah, see, we only think of the God's will, that He would not allow them to destroy. But they are planning to destroy the world.
What do you think about non-violent direct action?
You see, non-violent action is they don't care about that. You can.
What if the non-violent direct action is causing economic pressure?
You do not cause for them any economical pressure. It is any economical pressure that you make, who's going to suffer is the poor people. Poor people are going to suffer. First people are going to suffer. You see, in wars, who's going to suffer in wars? Poor people.
So are we just going to wait? Are we just going to wait for system failure? Is that the idea? Is that going to be less suffering?
What is the solution then?
Yeah.
What do you think is the solution?
Solution?
Yeah.
First of all, we don't have to deal with banks at all.
Whoa.
Okay? That's it. If you want to hurt them, if you want to hurt them, never listen to the media, because the media is all under their control. The media, they put, in your mind what they want you to believe. You see,
with regard to solution, I'm a vegan advocate. Now, there's lots of arguments just amongst the vegan community just about what veganism means. But actually, the definition of it is not causing any unnecessary suffering,
No.
which I don't think anyone
really?
would.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
I
I don't
think
think anyone would
now
argue with. So that means, as an Eskimo,
Yeah.
if you're living in icy terrains
Yeah.
where the only food available is meat,
Yeah.
then you're still a vegan. If you move into a town as an Eskimo and suddenly there's a supermarket and there's a choice, then you could say that you're not. That person is no longer necessarily a vegan.
So when they kill the seal,
Our problem
it's a
is
very
that
quick way.
we have more than 95% of the people of the world are ignorant, illiterate. Okay? We must educate, give education.
But
Okay,
this is
I
this is
educate.
Knowledge
this
is
is
power.
direct. This
No,
is power.
yeah, that's the real power, because they cannot fool you when you are educated. They can't fool you, but they are fooling all the ignorant people. That they make a war between among themselves, and who is gaining? Who's selling the weapons?
But for
America is
example-
selling the weapons. UK is selling the weapons. Germany is selling weapons.
On solutions,
Yes.
like animal agriculture is by far the biggest business in the world. For me, the biggest rebellion is actually in the domestic environment. So there's no security officer who's going to check you coming out of the supermarket and say, you haven't bought any meat, you better go back inside and buy some.
Yeah.
So the vegan community, they say, has gone from 150,000 in 2006 to maybe 3 million now. And in that case scenario, last Christmas, 1 in 3 households had a vegan sat at the table. And that vegan is not going to be there sat happy that there's this corpse on the table. Now, regardless of where we are with regard to what is necessary in what we buy, we can make a change in what we're doing, and we can recognise that the biggest business in the world is the cowboys. The cowboys running the world in that sense.
Yeah.
They've taken over the whole world.
Sure,
Like in this country, the Enclosure Acts was all about moving the sheep onto the land and making money through the wool trade and through the meat trade. That
Politicians of the world, they are the cause. The politicians.
But the individual consumer does have power in that sense.
What power does he have? You see, now they are even poisoning. See, they are poisoning food, they are poisoning the medicine, they are poisoning everything.
So what is the solution you see?
Look, I think that, okay, the solution is, first of all, you have to provide enough food for people, because a lot of people are dying every day. Starvation.
Did you know that plant protein is at least 16 times more efficient to provide than meat and dairy protein?
And this is kind of the education that we have to educate people. That people should know who is their enemy and who is trying to help them to grab them. Because you see, we have to fight, starvation. We have to fight the sickness, people who are getting sick and they don't have money to be, cured.
They say a lot of it's pesticides.
And
that are
pesticide
used on
is
the
a
crop.
poison.
And they say that with Brexit,
Yes.
maybe the regulations that we do have in Europe are going to be diminished so that we have the same lack of control as they do in America.
Can I say
Yes.
that the solution I see
Yes.
may seem a bit strange to you and may seem a bit outlandish, but the solution lies in identity politics, because that's the only thing that can neutralize the powers that you talk about. Those powers, they need to remain hidden and unidentified in order to operate effectively.
Yeah, it's
so
funny.
the very simple thing.
Because some people say in the anarchist community, all the people coming out the street, they can't unite. You've got the far right, you've got Black Lives Matter, you've got the environmentalists, you've got the Brexit people. They're all coming, but I actually think that's the positivity, because if they did all come out together with the same organisational structure, then they'd be a lot easier to infiltrate and to control. Whereas the fact is, we've got all these diverse groups who don't understand each other, who are almost in conflict with each other. But if at least we can keep the peace on the street, it's actually more positive that we've
Yes.
got loads of different groups out in the
Yeah,
street.
well,
That's
that
right.
is, you know,
Because once people start asking questions of identity, because you have a bank account, you have a bank account, everybody has a bank account.
Yeah.
But once they start asking, well, who owns this bank? This bank that I'm banking at here, this one on the high street. I'm going to every week.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the name of it? They say, oh, well, we had shareholders. Say, well, who are the shareholders? And what are their cultural beliefs? You know, what cultural beliefs does the bank hold? That's the most important question. You're putting your money there, but what do they believe?
Yeah.
Do you know what they believe?
There's an anarchist community that's saying, you got any money in the bank?
You see, I think,
Take it out, and do you want to buy some loan stock?
yeah,
Okay.
So basically, that's what they're saying.
yeah.
Right.
That's exactly what they're doing with the forex. The forex, you know, this is a game that it is easy to take your money. They say if you invest $100, you can deal even with 10,000.
Yeah, they're getting generous. They're
Yeah.
letting everybody come in now.
Yeah.
But in the old days, you couldn't.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't
but
get in
now, so they can get your money, your $100 that you put, they can get it in 1 second.
That's right. That's right.
In 1 second.
Well,
they
that
get
happened
it.
to a nation.
You lose it.
Yeah, that happened to the whole nation. Greece.
Yes. Yeah.
The whole country.
Greece, Italy,
They
Spain.
did a bail-in.
Ireland.
They did a bail-in and say, well, just take the money out.
Yeah, they take the money.
The same in
Yeah.
Brazil. I mean,
Yeah.
I was there in '93, and just in the transition when they linked the Brazilian currency to the dollar.
Yeah.
And basically they were bought out because of the inflation. So they had rampant, it's like 300% per month. That meant that all the people who didn't have a bank account had to spend their money in the first day as soon as they got their wage, because like 1 week on, it was going to be a quarter of what it was worth, 7 days before. So that's how they managed to bring it in with public support.
You know,
linking.
I remember, if I'm not wrong, but I think in 1992, David Rockefeller, he was interviewed by a Chinese newspaper Now, first of all, you know what he said? He said two things. He said, I think the world is getting to about maybe almost close to 7 billion people. He said, we need in this world not more than 2 billion. Now, how he can get rid of 5 billion people? By a war.
That's right.
He's using. Second thing, they asked him, they said, the Federal Reserve supposed to belong to the United States government,
Of course.
okay? But it is not.
Yeah, just like Bank of England.
Yeah, he said it belongs to several banks. Who are these banks?
That's right.
Citibank, the Bank of America, Chase Manhattan, all American banks that they belong to Rothschild. So, in few words, that the Federal Reserve belongs to Rothschild.
We don't have, I mean, I get this a lot when I do my advocacy. Oh, too many people, that's the problem. But actually, we've got 70 billion domestic animals. In this country, we've got 130 million chickens.
Yeah.
And those chickens pretty well have each individual chicken has the same calorie intake as a fully grown human.
Really?
The cow, yeah, because they're growing like a battery chicken will grow to size in 30 days, from a tiny chick to a big, and they're just eating all day. On the
Oh, right, okay.
And a cow, like a dairy cow, will eat 50 kg of food every day. We've got 15 million of these animals. You know, the problem isn't the human, the number of humans. It's the domestic animals
And the management.
and the management of them. To give you an idea of how much they consume, you look at the waste. They produce in America 130 times more waste than what the people do.
Yes,
the
yes, I
animals.
know.
And it's a violent culture
Yes.
of the conditions of degradation which those sentient animals are suffering
yeah.
is
They are
horrendous, and it's
throwing
all
the
behind
grain to
closed
the
doors.
sea. Why? To keep the price up.
That's right. So that
They don't give it to the
that's the bank. That's the value of the bankers.
Yeah.
That is the value of the rentiers. That's the value of the traders. You know, profit comes first, and everything is for sale. Once you go against that and say there's certain things that are not for sale, cannot be bought, then that starts to dissolve the power. Because don't forget, because the banks are temples. And temples run on faith, because the only thing that they're afraid of is a bank run. Yes? And a bank run is a loss of faith in the bank. So therefore, this great power that you're discussing, that you're talking about, it stands on faith alone. So therefore, the issue is to focus on faith, the direction of people's faith. Because that's where the power is, that's where the currency runs. That's the power. So the solution...
currency is charge.
That's right. It's charge, it's currency, it's power. That's where it is. You focus on that. Because all these things you're discussing about food and so on, they're investing in that, aren't they?
They put out the thing about food shortages,
exactly.
all this kind of stuff, this kind of...
So that's part of their business. That is part of the investment of the temple. Their temple, the part of the faith is that animals should be treated in that way. Animals need to... That's the faith.
Commodities, they're just simple commodities.
So that's the faith, it's the belief system. And people having faith. So once you start understanding that that's their faith and that's their belief, you start wondering, well, should I really invest in there? Because there's only two types of banks. There's the banks, what we're discussing, that are investing in keeping themselves even richer. But the other type of bank that needs to be developed is the bank where the original bank, which is a community bank. Because the bank is supposed to be a reflection of the society in which it sits. The bank is supposed to be staffed by people who share the same values as the bank, as the people that are investing in the bank. Yes, because if the bank shares the same value as the people, the bank will invest in projects that serve the people. In
Rainbow, we've got the magic hat that we pass around after meals, everyone puts in.
Yes.
If they want to, if they've got the money for it, because they know it's for the common, it's for everybody.
Yeah, that's the way forward.
Access
but that's the power.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, who manages and makes the policy of the bank?
Pardon?
Who manages and makes the policy of the bank?
The people.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the people at the top.
No.
You got
the community bank. Not community bank. Exactly. Not community bank. It won't work that way. That will neutralise the power of the offshore bankers.
So it's basically, if you come forward, I've got a project.
Yes.
I come forward. It's no good if it's just you and me.
Yes.
You need at least, in the culture that I'm involved in, you can't have a finance group meeting with two people. You have to have at least three people, because you've got someone to witness the exchange. So you have someone who holds
keep a record. Yeah.
But they're only there to be at a certain place and time that everyone knows.
That's right.
And then anyone can go to that working group, but it can only open if there are three people.
Yes.
And then
who are representing the community.
Better if they're five.
Yes, that's right. That is the true counter to that.
Come take over everything from your belly. Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. Listen. Man, don't listen to ITV. I don't listen to I just listen to COE. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. I don't even listen to Sky. Man, don't listen to COE. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to COE. If you see me in COE, I know everything COE. Man, don't even know BBC. Man, don't even know ITV. Not even listen to the MUN. They don't listen to COE.